All right, everyone, we're going to try something a little different this time around. As you probably know, a lot of my videos that I prepare are actually fairly prepared in advance, but I wanted to try something a little different. Usually I use the video camera that I have set up already, but someone suggested that I use Google Hangout because it would give me the ability to do a few other things as well. So let's go ahead and get shaking and baking here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the adult function forms. I'm going to share my screen with you because I want to be able to go through this with you so that you have an understanding of exactly how important this form is and in terms of what you need to do in terms of your case. So why don't you give me a second? I'm going to pull it up here and then we're going to talk about it for a little while, okay? All right. This is going to sound really crazy, but I want you to kind of follow along with me here. You're going to get what's called the adult function form. What this form ultimately does is that this form is information that Social Security relies upon in order to determine whether or not the medical record substantiates or supports what you're saying. The reason why I'm showing you this form is because, first of all, when you get this bad boy, it's about, I think, about 10 pages long. Don't freak out when you get it, okay? Don't freak out. It's a form, you are the expert on you. You can tell them about what's going on with you. Don't have yourself losing your mind or having a conniption. You are in the best place to tell them about you. So please take the time and do that. Now, this is important for you to understand so that this way you don't get totally, bogged down or taken out of context here. When you're looking at the form here, don't read into what it says. Answer the questions plain and simple. Okay? Most of the early part is easy, where you live, phone number, and so forth. Tell them about your case. When it says, information, how do your illness, injuries, or conditions limit your ability to work? People, remember, the primary focus of Social Security is how does it limit your ability to work? So when you're answering these questions, phrase them in terms of, explain them based on how your condition affects your ability to work. Now it's going to ask you little things. Describe what you do from the time you wake up until going to bed. Now, people, you would be surprised the number of times I see people will answer that with like one sentence. And I'm sitting here going, you do so much during the course of the day. How can you say what you do in one sentence? Add a separate sheet if you need to. Be descriptive. Remember, this is something that I've said before. There is no way for them to know what goes on in your house when you're there. So explain it to them. Now, do you take care of anyone such as this, as wife, husband, children, things? If yes, and what do you do for them? If you know you take care of these people, be descriptive. Explain. If it's something where you take care of somebody, but if you do it jointly with someone else, explain. If you know that you do have somebody in the house, but the majority of it is done by one person and not you, explain. Remember, you don't want Social Security to have to figure out your answers. Give it to them. All right, same thing here. Explain how your illness or injuries affects your ability to do these things. People, I know this sounds so mundane. And I know you're probably saying, well, why do they care about the way I can dress or bathe? Think about it. If you're saying that I have problems with my lower back, getting dressed may be a unique adventure. Where some people can get dressed standing up, you may need to sit down. Where some people have problems with their backs bathing, or where they can bathe without having it, when they weren't having any problems, you may have to have a loved one help you. Social Security does not know what's going on in your circumstances. Do you need special reminders to take care of your personal needs? Now you say, well, what does special mean? What are they trying to say? Well, they're asking, does somebody have to tell you when you need to take a bath or comb your hair? Well, yeah. Well, they won't know unless you tell them. Same thing, preparing meals. You'd be surprised. you get so used to you. See, and this is the one thing I tell people all the time. Your condition is your new norm. I know this is going to sound crazy. Hear me when I say this. This is your, I know it may sound kind of wild when I say this, but the reality is what you do on a day-to-day basis is your new normal. Unless you tell them, they're not going to know. Okay? Same thing with household chores. Lay it out for them. What do you do? Sometimes people have a tendency, will say what their chores are, and they'll say it based on what they used to do, not on actually what they're doing now. So please be descriptive when you're breaking that down. Getting around. You may not think that it's important or it's really crucial, but talk about what it means in terms of how you go places. Like some people say, well, I don't have a car, I don't drive. I hate when people say, do you have a driver's license? No, I don't have a driver's license, I lost years ago. Well, how do you get around? Oh, I ride the bus. Now, keep in mind, do you ride the bus because there's a bus stop right outside your house? Or do you have to walk 4 or 5 blocks to get there? If you have to walk 4 or 5 blocks, can you get there pretty quickly? Does it take you a while to get there? Are you taking multiple stops along the way? If a normal walk before you got hurt would only take you maybe, 10 minutes to get to the bus stop, but now it's taking you an hour. Why? Because you're stopping 10 times. That's something Social Security needs to know, people. Don't hide that information, okay? Shopping, same thing. You'd be surprised. When you go grocery shopping, do you shop online? Do you shop in mail? Does somebody go with you? Do you need somebody to help carry your things? All these things are little things that people need to know. Hobbies, interests. Think about the things that you do now. Like some people say, oh, I spend a lot of time on the computer. Pause. I spend a lot of time on the computer because this is what I do for a living. I will spend hours straight. Can you spend hours straight? How much time do you need before you have to break because you're in pain? Maybe because it's hard to focus. Maybe because you forgot what you've read or what you saw. It's Social Security. If you don't tell Social Security, they won't know. Social activities. Think about this. Think about what you used to do before. Were you interacting with your friends? Were you hanging out? Were you spending quality time with people? If you were doing those things, dadgummit, let Social Security know. They won't know unless you tell them. Same thing here. Now, it's amazing. Look at how these things, it's amazing. I want to pause and focus on section D. Look at this right here. Memory, completing tasks, concentration. It's amazing how people will sit here and they will say these things are problematic. But then if you go back up here to reminders for things, for getting around, or being reminding for personal care, or how long does it take because of lack of focus, you won't mention anything in there about problem with your memory, completing task, concentration, or even following instructions or understanding. But then you'll check it down here. Well, wait a minute. Well, I'm so confused. How are you saying these are a problem down here, but they're not a problem to doing anything? You kind of understand what I'm saying? Here's the ultimate point that I need you to fully understand. I know this sounds kind of like a pain in the backside, is that when you're filling out this information, you want to make sure you don't let Social Security have to take the time to figure out something. Also, I'm going to talk about this, and if I haven't, I know I've talked about this before. Medication. When you're taking your medication, pay close attention. Again, pay close attention to if those medications are giving you any kind of problems. And you're like, well, what kind of problem? Side effects. Do they make you sleepy? Do they make you queasy? Do they make you constipated? Do they make you go to the bathroom more? Again, Social Security doesn't know. And more importantly is when these medications are giving you problems, make sure you let your doctors know. And don't just say it one time. If they continue to present a problem, okay? If they continue to be a problem, let everybody know, okay? Now, I know this sounds problematic, and I know that I've probably gone over a lot of this, and you're like, Attorney Reeves, you just don't understand my plight. Actually, I do. The forms are there to help. And here's the other thing. Remember, you're filling these forms out under oath. These forms might pop up later on when you have a trial. When you have a hearing. Because if you say one thing, don't be surprised if the court relies on looking back at the other thing, saying, well, wait a minute, you said this then, but you're saying this now. Which one is true? Be mindful. This is what's utilized to demonstrate to Social Security that you're disabled. They're looking at your medical evidence, and they're looking at what you say you can and you can't do, trying to figure out if the two mesh with each other. Remember, you want to do what you can to assist Social Security in getting a better understanding of the limitations of your condition. You do not want them to have to sit there and try to figure it out.